Well, hello. I'm Sally Stang. I'm the Director of Housing and Community Services for the City of Wichita. And I'm excited to be able to present today a prospective new program, the Affordable Housing Fund. So the Affordable Housing Fund is being made available due to the American Rescue Plan Act. The federal government made funds available to state and local governments to respond to and support the response to COVID-19 pandemic. And the city, back in June of last year, did a lot of public engagement to find out what type of programs were really necessary to respond to and recover from COVID-19. And affordable housing came out as the #1 response and needed program identified by many of the constituents. In August of 2021, the City Council approved an allocation of $5 million from the American Rescue Plan Act funds in order to support an affordable housing fund program. Very exciting for us. So they started and engaged a consultant, Development Strategies, Inc. That consultant did research of similar programs across the country, including Tulsa, Oklahoma, Louisville, Kentucky, St. Louis, Missouri, Greenville, South Carolina, and Franklin County, Ohio. They met and comprised a technical assistance and advisory committee. They met 4 times from September through December to have facilitated conversations about the real need of affordable housing in Wichita. And they came back with recommendations. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So first, let's start off, what is affordable housing? I get to ask that question often. But in general, HUD defines affordable housing as housing in which the occupant is paying no more than 30% of their gross income for rent and utilities, or mortgage and utilities. So people who pay more than 30% are considered cost burdened, and their housing is not affordable to them. To give some perspective, in Wichita, a decent, safe, quality 2-bedroom apartment costs about $850 a month, including utilities. And at the Kansas minimum wage, a household would have to work 118 hours a week to afford that 2-bedroom unit. That's why our housing can be so unaffordable. But I often hear from people, housing in Wichita is cheap. Why do we need more affordable housing? And compared to other areas of the country, yes, our housing costs are lower, but also income is lower. The amount of wages people earn are lower than those other high-cost areas. Approximately 44,000 households in Wichita are cost burdened. They pay more than 30% of their gross monthly income for their rent and utilities or their mortgage and utilities. And cheap housing isn't necessarily quality affordable housing. We need affordable housing that is quality, and it has energy efficiency and is a safe place for people to raise their families. Another issue why we need additional affordable housing is that building costs actually exceed the appraised value. Can you imagine how frustrating to go out and build a brand new, modest 3-bedroom house costs about $180,000. And in some areas of the city, that house, brand new, will only appraise for $90,000. That's what's happening in many areas of our community, which makes it very challenging to add more units to our portfolio of quality, affordable housing in our community. Low home values diminish a family's ability to build generational wealth. Homeownership is the American dream. People invest in their homes and hope to see their homes increase in value so that they can pass that generational wealth down to the next generation. And in areas in which housing prices are stymied, that doesn't happen. So we looked at ARPA funds and how far could $5 million go? Well, if we look at building new single-family homes, like I said, it costs about $180,000 to build that new home. And it's going to appraise for about $90,000 to $100,000, leaving a $70,000 gap. With $5 million in ARPA funds, we could possibly build 70 homes. To do single-family gut rehab, we'd be investing $50,000 in an existing structure to bring up the quality, improve energy efficiency, and make quality affordable housing. At $50,000 per unit, we'd get about 100 units. Single-family renovation, this is mainly repair of major systems, roofing, HVAC, things like that. We could, at about $25,000 each, we could get about 200 units. And if we were to build new multifamily housing, we'd be looking at about a $40,000 per unit gap, so we could do about 125 units. Now, we're not proposing putting all our eggs in one basket. We know a nice mix of different opportunities is what our community really needs. So just to give some perspective, home repair is typically $5,000 to $25,000. It's usually done as a grant or a forgivable loan. It's based on homeowners, and it's generally used for weatherization, major systems, roofs, structural repairs, windows, ADA accessibility, and lead or asbestos abatement. Renovations or rehabs are usually more comprehensive. They're over $25,000. They can go $25,000 easily up to $80,000, $100,000, depending on the scope. They're usually done as a loan or a 0% loan in these affordable housing fund programs. Grants are much less common. They're usually developer-focused, and they leverage other funds and focus on preserving affordable housing that already exists. And then there's homeowner services. And those are preparing people to become first-time home buyers through financial or credit counseling, home buyer or owner education, down payment assistance and closing cost assistance, property mortgage assistance, insurance coverage, home maintenance classes and resources, and grants to nonprofits. So those are types of eligible projects. So eligible uses that we see are single-family renovation or rehabilitation. That could be for sale for first-time home buyers or for affordable rentals. But we do have a caveat that rentals can only be done if paired with low-income housing tax credit, Section 8, or other program that has long-term affordability, so that we can ensure that those rental properties stay affordable in the long term. Home repair for existing low-income homeowners, housing services, and new construction of affordable single-family homes. Who are the eligible applicants for this funding would be for-profit developers, nonprofit developers, those who have a good track record and no outstanding funds. And for housing services would be nonprofit service providers that have demonstrated capacity. And those programs that they develop would be targeted to those in a homeownership situation under 80% area median income, and in rental situations, those at 60% area median income with a priority for those at 50% or below. Home repair and housing services would be limited to those at 80% area median income. Just to give you an idea, you can see the chart that identifies the income limits at the three different levels, 50%, 60%, and 80% of area median income. And those are determined based on the number of people in the family. So a family of 4 could have an income of $60,650 and qualify for programs related to home ownership, down payment assistance, homeowner rehab, or purchasing their first home. We also have a unique opportunity in that the Wichita Housing Authority has been struggling for a couple of years to raise the funding necessary to rehabilitate its portfolio of single-family homes. It has 352 single-family homes identified on this map by little purple dots. And HUD has underfunded the public housing program for decades and provided a resource called RAD to try and allow housing authorities to convert their public housing to a Section 8 platform so that they could secure private debt to rehab those properties. The problem was we were unable to secure a lender. Not even HUD would issue a loan in order for us to complete those repairs. So we've been strategizing with HUD on ways to dispose of that portfolio through sales or demolitions if necessary, and then cycle the funding from those sales back into more affordable housing under a different type of platform. So this provides us a unique opportunity now that we have the Affordable Housing Fund. And I'm going to show you an example here. So again, all of those single-family homes are indicated by purple dots. The stadium site is just on here for reference, so we can kind of get a visual of where we are. And then we've identified 2 clusters of homes, one up on North Minnesota Piatt Ash and 25th Street, and the other down south at Haskell and St. Clair. And this is where there's a grouping of these homes where we see if we had a targeted investment in the neighborhood surrounding these homes, that investments in these homes and surrounding it would bring up the entire neighborhood. This is really, really exciting, and it's an opportunity that we've never seen before and probably will never see again. So the ECA is the established central area. That is the border around the outside. And the floodplain is identified as this kind of aqua-colored, and those are properties or areas that fall within the 100-year floodplain. So as an example pilot project, we're here zooming in on the area of North Minnesota Ash and Piatt. And this is all just speculative. And if we had a project where we took those 46 homes and a developer put in a bid in order to purchase those, do the renovations, sell some for affordable home ownership and some for affordable rentals, but then invested targeted outreach for projects in the quarter-mile area surrounding this area, you'll see the yellow rectangles identify vacant land that could be acquired and have infill single-family home development. Randomly selected some other projects where we could do home repair for existing homeowners. And then there's also an overlay, the red dots, are properties that are currently in tax foreclosure. And so if we were able to do all of these items, 32 for-sale rehabs, 14 rental rehabs, 5 new single-family homes constructed, 20 homes getting homeowner repaired, down payment assistance, supportive services, we could end up with 71 quality affordable units. It would be a total investment of about $7 million in order to do that. It'd be a net increase in property values of $2.5 million and an increase in property tax revenue of $70,000 a year. Would require gap funding in the amount of $3.8 million. When you think about that, and we have a $5 million fund, if we did $3.8 million on one project, it wouldn't leave much behind. However, that unique opportunity is the fact that the majority of this work starts with those Wichita Housing Authority homes, and included in the development cost is the actual purchase of those homes for $2 million. That $2 million would cycle back into the Affordable Housing Fund, leaving the whole project costing a net of $1.8 million or just $25,000 per unit. That's a tremendous return on investment. Currently, we're spending $80,000 to $100,000 in subsidy just to build one new single-family home. So if we can get houses brought up to high-quality, affordable, energy-efficient housing for $25,000 a unit, and then watch as not just the units that get work on them improve, you'll see home values in the surrounding neighborhood also improve, which can bring the whole neighborhood up. This is what makes this so exciting. So the Affordable Housing Fund priorities as proposed today is that projects that renovate those Wichita Housing Authority homes will have the highest priority because they actually allow funding to revolve back into the fund. Projects within a quarter mile of those Wichita Housing Authority homes, because we want to see that when we make a targeted investment, we see the whole neighborhood being brought up. Projects located in formerly redlined areas and qualified census tracts. See, that's one caveat to using the ARPA funds, is that it is a requirement by the Department of Treasury that for affordable housing purposes, the funds can only be used in areas in which residents were disproportionately affected by COVID-19. And one way they say that we can meet that requirement is by only doing projects in what they call qualified census tracts. And those are census blocks in which 50% or more of the households are low income. And those are identified by HUD each year, and they are actually identified on this map here. So the areas in light blue are the areas that are fall within what HUD calls a qualified census tract. So that limits our ability to do any of these projects to just within those areas. But we also recognize that there were many policies in the early 1900s that were called redlined. And there were areas in which the federal government defined areas of high minority concentration as dangerous, and homeowners or potential homeowners could not get FHA loans in order to buy houses in those areas. And those are called redlined areas, and they also fall within many of these qualified census tracts. So we want to see projects that are located in the qualified census tract, and if they're in a redlined area, that's also a plus. We want to see sustainable homeownership opportunities. If we move people into homeownership, we want to make sure that they can stay in homeownership for the long term. We want to be able to leverage other funding sources. We want projects that already have site control or ownership in place because we don't have a lot of time to act, and we need to get this funding obligated in the next 2 years. And we want to improve the quality of affordable rentals in our community. We are proposing that we create an Affordable Housing Fund Review Board. That board would be comprised of 7 members appointed by the mayor and council, 3 with 4-year terms and 4 with 2-year terms. We want to see that they have relevant experience, such as working in finance, housing services, construction, building, housing development, capacity building, community engagement, or community leaders from these focus areas to serve on this review board that will review applications, funding applications, and make recommendations to the council on which projects to fund. But they can't have any conflict of interest. They can't personally be a recipient of any of the funding, and they can't serve on the board or for an organization that might actually receive the funding. And that board would also be used to review other affordable housing program activities, such as our Housing Development Loan Program or our Community Housing Development Organization funding. So in summary, what we're proposing is through request for proposal processes to solicit funding applications from partners in our community for programs that do homeowner repair and renovations for low-income homeowners, new construction of affordable single-family homes, repair and renovation projects for low-income rentals that have long-term use restrictions, housing services for including homebuyer readiness, budgeting, and homeowner and renter education, and down payment assistance. At this point, we are seeking input and feedback from the community, from our district advisory boards, neighborhood associations, and citizens alike. So we want to know your questions. We want to know what you like or dislike about the proposed program. We want to know what is missing or confusing, because I'll be honest with you, affordable housing finance is pretty complicated. And please email any comments to wha@wichita.gov. Thank you.